Black Beauty by Anne Sewell. Black Beauty. Black Beauty. My first home was a large rolling meadow where I lived with my mother, a wise old horse named Duchess. I was a handsome colt, and because of my black coloring, our master, Farmer Gray, called me Darky. There were other young horses in the meadow, too. Together we spent many hours galloping around the field, testing our speed. Sometimes our play turned rough, and we would bite and kick one another in fun. One day, during an afternoon of wild play, I heard my mother whinny to me. "I want you to remember something," she said, when I trotted over to her. "The other colts here are good colts, but they're fit only to haul carts. You are different. You are well-bred and come from a line of fine horses. Your grandfather won many races, you know, and he'd hate to see you behaving like these other colts. For your own sake, I hope you will grow up gentle and good-tempered and always do your best, no matter what." My mother's words did not mean much to me then, but I often thought of them when I was older. I spent 4 happy years in this meadow before Farmer Gray decided it was time for my breaking in. Breaking in! I knew what it meant for a horse to be broken in, and I was not looking forward to it. It signaled the end of play and was the first step to becoming an adult horse. There were many parts to my breaking in. Learning to wear a saddle and bridle and to carry someone on my back, wearing iron horseshoes, having a cart or carriage harnessed behind me, and always doing whatever was commanded of me. Farmer Gray was very gentle, but there was no getting around it. I did not enjoy it. Soon, though, the worst was over. To finish my training, Farmer Gray would harness my mother to the carriage and take us for drives along pleasant country lanes. My mother was a good teacher, and I soon learned when I should go fast or slow and what was expected of me. During our drives, she often gave me advice that she thought would be helpful. We both knew that one day I would have to leave her. "There are many kinds of men," she told me. "Some are good, like Farmer Gray, but others are cruel. A horse never knows what his life will be like or who will buy him. But I hope that, wherever you go, you will always do your best and keep up your good name." Shortly after this, I was bought by a man named Squire Gordon, and I left my mother and my first home behind. Squire Gordon and his wife seemed very pleased with me. They were kind people, and I couldn't have asked for a better home. I was sure I would be happy here. "What a beautiful horse!" cried the Gordons' 2 young daughters when they saw me. "He has such a handsome face and lovely coloring," remarked Mrs. Gordon. "Why don't we call him Black Beauty?" And so I was named. Life at Birtwick Hall, Squire Gordon's estate, was pleasant and peaceful. John, the coachman, knew a lot about horses and treated them with skill and care. Squire Gordon kept several horses, but John seemed especially proud of me and spent a lot of time grooming me until my coat shone and my mane and tail were as soft as silk. He also talked to me a great deal, and though I couldn't understand everything he said, I came to know what he meant and what he expected me to do. 2 of the other horses became great friends of mine. One was a funny little pony named Merrylegs. In spite of his small size, he was full of energy, and his good temper made him a favorite of the squire's daughters. Ginger, a tall chestnut mare, was quite another matter. From my very first day at Birtwick Hall, she was ornery and ill-tempered. She even accused me of being the reason she'd been moved to another stall. I had never met such an unpleasant horse and didn't think we would ever get along. But I began to understand Ginger a little better when Merrylegs told me about her. "It's her own fault she was moved out of that stall," he said. "She's been biting and snapping at people ever since she got here." "But why?" I asked. "The only things I ever bite are grass and hay. Why would she want to bite people?" "I don't think she wants to," he replied. "It's just that she was treated very badly before she came here, and I don't think she knows any other way to react to people. But if there's one place that can turn her around, it's this one. I'm 12 years old now, and I've seen enough to know that there's no better place for a horse to live than Birtwick Hall. The squire is kind, and John is wonderful with us. If Ginger doesn't start behaving soon, It's her own fault. A few days after this, I was chosen to go out with Ginger in the carriage. I didn't know how she would react to being harnessed with me, but except for flattening her ears when she first saw me, she behaved very well. I soon found out that she was a hard worker who pulled her weight both uphill and down. Squire Gordon liked pairing us because we kept step so well, and after several outings, Ginger and I became quite friendly. One day, when she and I stood alone in the paddock, we started talking about our early lives. It was then that I finally understood what Merrylegs had told me. If I'd had your type of upbringing, I'm sure I'd be as good-tempered as you are, Ginger said, but mine was hard. No one was ever kind to me. It started when I was young, and groups of boys would come into our field and throw stones at us to make us gallop. I began to think of people as the enemy, and no one has ever given me a reason to think differently. What about your breaking in? I asked. Oh, that, she said with a toss of her head. Well, I wasn't given much choice about it, was I? I wasn't broken in gently like you. I was forced to wear a bit and bridle, forced to wear a saddle and carry someone on my back, and if I didn't like it, I was whipped. Oh, I know I've got a reputation as a troublemaker, but I only get angry and kick when I'm not treated well. I'm willing to work hard, but what right does anyone have to treat me cruelly? I had to agree with her, and our conversation only made me more grateful for the pleasant years that I'd spent with my mother in Farmer Gray's meadow.